never be deceived by false miracles. There are ways to tell God never changes. Anything that contradicts his revelation that can be known with certainty, that is completely false. Hello, welcome to the show The Truth Unveiled. I am your host, Father John Okerolum. Today, we shall discover how to tell a supernatural revelation, that is, that the revelation has been revealed by God. We know a true revelation by external marks, that is, facts subject to the external senses, the 5 of them, particularly facts subject to the senses of sight and of hearing. When man, as man, is able to perceive these external marks, that is when he can attain to a true revelation. If it is not by any of these means, if he cannot attain to them by his external senses, then he is in a delusion, because there's nothing that is in the intellect that was not first in the senses. Now, God is omnipotent and omniscient, that is, God is all-powerful and all-knowing. Therefore, these external marks must be able to be apprehended by man, that is, through his senses. But since man is a rational animal having intellect and will, these external marks must show clearly that it was done by God, who is all-powerful and all-knowing. These external marks are therefore none other than miracles and prophecies. Miracles. What are miracles? Miracles are sensible works beyond the powers of nature and attributable to God alone as the principal cause. Let us break down that definition. Sensible works because it is perceived by the external senses. They are said to be beyond the powers of nature, that is, either the works itself could never have been done by a natural force, example, raising a dead man to life, or the manner in which the work was done is beyond natural forces, example, the instantaneous healing of a broken leg or the instantaneous restoration of sight to a man born blind. The apologetic value of a miracle lies in the fact that God works the miracle precisely as a testimony on his part that he is the one calling our attention to himself or to his messenger. It is clearly absurd to deny the possibility of miracles. There is absolutely no contradiction involved anywhere, while the denial of miracles implies many contradictions. For instance, if you deny a miracle, you are implicitly stating that God is all-powerful, and yet he cannot put in force an exception to one of his own laws. He is something, but at the same time, he is not that thing. That is a contradiction. Indeed, miracles excite wonder and awe just because what ought naturally to happen does not happen in this particular case. We'll now go to the second external mark by which we can verify a true revelation, and that is prophecy. Prophecies, what are they? Prophecies are unambiguous predictions of a future event, especially of a free will action not foreseen from natural causes and based upon sure knowledge of the future. We may know the future by studying present causes from which we can surmise the future events and effects. For instance, one can study the happenings in the world and say logically that if this continues in this sequence, this would follow. Or, yes, we can also guess what a person would do, now aside from events around us. We can also guess what a person would do by studying, by observing his character and habits. But the person, nevertheless, is free to do just the opposite of what we have conjectured. Even the evil spirits cannot foretell our free actions with certainty, although they could surmise far better than any human could. God alone is all-knowing. He alone knows with certainty all the future, all the free actions of man. And if his messenger foretells accurately, take note of that word, accurately, what the free actions of God or man will be, then God is marking that messenger with his approval. Miracles and prophecies are therefore sure signs of a divine revelation. God cannot lie. Today there are many people, pastors, preachers, who claim they are doing miracles or who say they are doing predictions or prophecies. They call themselves prophets. But we know that God cannot lie, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to show themselves as messengers of God. But we find often that they predict falsely or they prophesy falsely, and often they prophesy ambiguously in such a way that when that happens, they would say, yes, we said so. But God cannot lie. If they are true prophets, whatever they say or what they do and stand for should not contradict what we know with certainty that God has revealed. God should make an impostor to do a miracle, it would be to say that God approves this false prophet, this false miracle as his own. Therefore, as we know the true miracles, there are also false ones. There are ways to tell the true from the false, like we saw previously. I'll recommend that you go and see some of our past episodes that speaks about false prophecies and false revelation. If God worked miracles in favor of a false prophet, we add, he would be removing the fittest means for communicating his will to man, for we could never distinguish a true from a false revelation. Thus, God could not manifest himself in any assured manner to his rational creatures, which clearly we know that it is impossible. I'll give you a story from sacred scripture. Remember in the Old Testament when God sent Moses to free the people of the Israelites from Egypt, and then Moses went to tell Pharaoh that God had told him to let his people go, and Pharaoh refused to do so. And then in order to confirm that Moses wasn't speaking on his own authority but was sent by the true God, the God of the Israelites, he cast his staff on the ground, and Pharaoh laughed and called his magicians, and they did likewise. They cast their staff on the ground. But in order that God should show that he alone is the true God, the staff of Moses, which was a serpent at the time, swallowed the other serpents to show that God alone is all powerful. So never be deceived by false miracles. There are ways to tell. God never changes. Anything that contradicts his revelation that can be known with certainty, that is completely false. Do not be deceived. God has spoken, and these are sure signs to know he has spoken and to distinguish the true from the false prophet, the true from the false revelation, the true from the false religion. Stay tuned. This is the truth unveiled.